I know you've seen the videos. Cancel cable, stop buying lattes, quit buying new appliances every other year, stop buying luxury items, quit wasting money on spa days and getting your nails done, stop driving new cars, quit shopping at Target. But what happens when you've already done all of those things, or maybe never done any of those things and you're still struggling? Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Shayla. I am a low-income homemaker, believe it or not, and I have a family of 8. Today I'm sharing something really vulnerable and real here. I'm going to share how our family has navigated many times of living on one income, off and on, over the last 21 years. But before you click away thinking this is going to be another guilt trip or another just stop buying lattes video, it is not going to be like that at all. Because I want to start with something really important. I'm going to share how our family of 8 has survived and at times even thrived on one income for long stretches of time over the last couple decades. But I also want to give you an honest and truthful look of what that's looked like at times and where it's gotten us today. There are many things that I did not know in the beginning of this journey that I do wish I had known, and I will be sharing those with you today. So if you're here for the practical tips, I've got them and I'm going to give them to you. I've got over 20 years worth of low income and frugal living tips. But stay to the end because I'm also going to talk about how to know if one income is not enough anymore and when it stops being enough, if that time comes. This is not just another toughen up, I made it on one income, so you can too video. This is not at all what this video is going to be. This video is backed by a couple decades worth of experience and honesty. While we talk about this, you'll be seeing all kinds of money-saving projects that I've got going on around the homestead. Want to know more about any of them? Subscribe to my Patreon. So today I want to talk about how our family of 8 has survived and at times even done all right on one income. I'm going to share all kinds of strategies that I've learned, but I also want to bring some balance into this. And I want to share why we do not live on one income right now, because there's way too much woman shaming and judgment around this topic that I see happening online and everywhere. And I want to bring some balance and mercy and a kind of a stark reminder into this conversation. First, I'll be very honest. I do work right now. I earn income here on YouTube as a YouTuber, and through this business and ministry that I've built over the last 6 years. Now, I do want to say before you run out and think that, oh, that's a great idea. It's not. It took years for me to build this to where it actually helps our family. I would not recommend that young mothers just run out and try to do this as a quick fix, because it's not. It was very slow, it was very gradual, and it took a lot of persistence and thousands of hours of working for free. So there's that. But for over half of our almost 22 years of marriage, and as a growing homeschool family of 8, we have lived on one income. Sometimes we did well, sometimes we barely made it, and sometimes we absolutely struggled. And that is the hard truth. Another hard truth. And this is something that people do not talk about when they're young. They don't think about it when they're in their 20s or oftentimes even in their 30s. When you live on one income and you have a larger family, that often, for many families, means nothing goes into retirement. And that is a very true and stark reality for so many people. So I just put that out there as something to think about. So I want to talk right now about how we made it work when we did live on one income and how we found strategies. So number one, we lived like nobody else we knew. For over 13 years, we lived in old, run-down, torn apart, under construction homes, less than 1,000 square feet at one point. A large homeschooling family for over 13 years, packed into less than 1,000 square feet, a very tiny space. I'm going to be very honest. It was hard. It was crowded. It was claustrophobic. It was not Instagram worthy. And I do mean it, because I tried to do the whole Instagram thing, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see that. But that was our life. We also drove old beaters. We still do. And when I say old, I mean old. No air conditioning, windows down all summer long, fixing things ourselves because we have to. We have always bought used, and we repaired and made do. That is the first key. Second, I learned to shop strategically, and you're gonna love this. I'm very excited to share this part with you, by the way. There are so many little secrets I've learned about grocery stores and shopping stores. So first I wanna say, I did learn to do this once a month shopping trip, because it was 30 minutes to go to the city to get the goods and the groceries. So I would only go once a month, or maybe twice a month sometimes. But this would save on gas money. And I had a very loose menu planning. So what I would do was I'd go to the store, I would look for what was on sale, I would get that, and then I would menu plan around that. I also learned to buy in bulk. And this is easier to do in some parts of the country and harder in other parts. But I would buy in bulk as often as I could, which was hard. It's hard to buy in bulk when you don't have a place to store anything, but I found ways. I found ways to stash all kinds of foods. Sometimes it was just out on the floor, and it was, like I said, it wasn't always pretty. Another thing that I did is I learned to cook beans in more ways than I knew existed. Beans were not a trend in our house. They were survival. Bread, homemade bread, was not a trend. It was survival. Rice, homemade bread, soups, stretching meat, all of these things. Now, recently I've been sharing some of these recipes on the channel because those skills truly carried us. So if you want some of the recipes and some of the cooking methods and scratch cooking ideas, be sure to look for them in my playlists here and some of my recent videos. A third thing that I did is I learned the rhythm of the retail year. So I marked sales in my planner, and this is the part I'm so excited to share with you because so many people don't know about this. Okay, listen, February and March is winter clearance. You'll be shocked. This is the time of the year you want to go out and start looking at the clearance sales for clothing for your kids for the upcoming year. So you want to size up. Now in August, that's when you'll find the summer clothing on a deep discount. Memorial Day is a good time to look for appliances and mattresses. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, that's good for your larger purchases. Make sure that you kind of kept an eye on the prices throughout the year though, because there is a dirty little shady trick that a lot of companies are doing where they have a certain price on something all year, and just before Black Friday, they'll raise the price and then put it as a discount. So it looks like you're getting a discount when it's actually the same price it was all year long. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Know your prices throughout the year. After Christmas, that's when you'll find major markdowns on a lot of things. So it is the end of February as I make this video. We're going into March. And recently, I just found polo shirts for all my boys for 50 cents each. Now that wasn't luck. It's years of paying attention and knowing when to look for the good deals. Frugal, elegant homemaking, it's not about deprivation, it's about strategy. So another thing that we did, and I want to say this carefully, is we made a strategic move at one point to a more family-friendly, well, let me specify, large family-friendly state. We looked at the cost of living, the wages, we looked at healthcare options, we looked at what would support a large family best, and we made decisions that would give our children the most stability long-term. There's no shame in using wisdom and available resources while you build your life and the life that you believe in. So now I want to shift, because I need to confess something. I used to think that if I could live on one income, anyone could. And yeah, I had a little tinge of judgment in my heart towards women who worked. Because after all, the Bible does say Titus 2 women should be keepers at home. Back in the day, I thought it would be easy to do. I thought it was easy to do for a time. And for a time, it was easier when I had only a couple kids and they were all young. But then life happened, and it humbled me. Kids got older, needs got bigger. Eventually, I was forced to look beyond the one singled out verse that I was basing my entire life on and look at what else the Bible had to say about the topic. So here's the part that we're going to talk about next, because yes, I've shared how we made it work, okay? But I'm going to be honest about when one income stops being enough and how to know when it's not enough anymore and maybe give some more verses that I hope will free you. There's way too much woman shaming around this topic, by the way, and that's why I'm talking about it. I've seen some very haughty, very proud women taunting how they don't worry about making a living because that's their husband's job. I was in a group about a year ago, and a woman went on saying she needed to find something to do from home, and it was in a Christian women's group, and there were over 60 comments shaming her. Women claiming that they don't worry about that because it's their husband's job. And I'm going to say this very clearly. That is not a biblical perspective at all. I'm sad to see it among so many women professing Christianity. Let me share what the Bible actually says. First, yes, it does say that women are to be keepers at home, but it is specifically talking to women with young children. The Bible also talks about in Timothy 5:8, and it says, if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Now, this verse, as with most places in the scripture, when it says he, it means he or she. Now, modern translations use the word he all over the place in the Bible, including here. If you actually look up this very verse where it uses the word he, in the original Greek, in this specific text and context, it does not mean men only. The word means anyone, both men and women. It is a modern concept that providing is only the man's job and not the woman's. This is a modern teaching. All throughout history, men and women have worked side by side together. Look at the Proverbs 31 woman. She didn't just keep the house. She bought and sold real estate. She planted vineyards. She made linen garments and sold them to merchants. She ran profitable businesses, and she managed employees. She was an entrepreneur, a businesswoman, a provider, and she is held up as the ideal godly woman. So let me tell you some of the real reasons that we experienced and why I started working. And I'm going to share this because I think that a lot of you out there might recognize a lot of what I'm about to share. So the first reason is I missed my husband. So I actually like my husband. I mean, I love him, but I actually like him too. I really enjoy his company, and I never saw him because he was working himself into an early grave. He was working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks just to keep us afloat. I didn't like watching that. I didn't like watching the man that I love destroy his health, miss his children's lives, and I didn't like having to raise the children single-handedly and see them hardly know their father. The second reason is the Bible says that God will give us what we need. So when you reach a point in life where your needs start surpassing your husband's ability to fill them all, you kind of start to do a double take, okay? The fact that my husband needed to sleep at some point started to become a concern, and it caused me, as his wife, to say, maybe there's something more I could be doing. The Bible says we all are to provide for our households. Now, when one person can't do it all, maybe that's a calling that the other person needs to step up and help. Another reason is I got sick of living in poverty. So I'm just going to be honest. When you live in poverty for a really long time and needs aren't being met, it kind of forces you to swallow your petty woman pride, roll up your sleeves, and see what you can do. Reason number 4 is the meaning of being my husband's helpmeet really started to set in. I didn't like the idea of running my husband into an early grave, as I've seen other women do. I am my husband's helpmate, as the Bible commands Christian women to be. So I started to recognize and realize that sometimes being a helpmate means to realize where things are at and help to shoulder the financial burden if needed. We are hearing this phrase a lot lately. It's the phrase that, well, our grandparents did it. They raised families on one income. Why can't we? Or we should be able to. And I understand that question, and I understand it's rooted in some nostalgia, maybe. But we have to slow down and look at the numbers, because numbers don't lie, and the structure of life honestly has changed. It's not that our grandparents were more virtuous or more frugal. It's not that today's women are weaker. Friends, the economic structure today is simply vastly different. In the 50s, 70s, and into the 80s, the average home cost about 2 to 3 times a man's annual income. Today, in many places, it's 5, 6, even 8 times the annual income. That changes everything. Also, healthcare was structured differently. Insurance premiums were lower. Deductibles weren't in the thousands. You didn't feel like one emergency would wipe you out financially. College tuition was dramatically cheaper relative to wages. Many people paid cash. Student loan debt wasn't hanging over an entire generation for decades. Homes were smaller. That's true. Now, keep in mind before you go thinking, small home living, that's the answer. If you're homeschooling and you've got the kids in the home, like 24/7, really consider that. Yes, homes were smaller back in the day, but most people weren't homeschooling their children. But also utilities were lower. There were fewer bathrooms, less square footage, lower property taxes. And here's something people do not talk about, and it's something that we need to look at. Back in the day, products were made to last. Appliances lasted 20 or 30 years. You repaired things instead of replacing them. Today, we're forced to replace things like refrigerators and dryers and just all of our appliances far more often because they just don't last like they used to. And I think it's common knowledge they're not made to last. And then there are the quiet modern expenses. For many families, internet is no longer optional. Cell phones are necessary. Software subscriptions, service fees, insurance increases, registration fees. Have any of you seen the insurance for a kid to have a car, for a young person in their late teens and early 20s? The insurance for that is astonishing. Even if you live simply, the baseline cost of functioning in modern society is higher. And then there's wages. For many families, wages have not kept pace with the rise in housing, healthcare, and education and insurance. So when someone says, well, women used to stay home just fine, I think we need to be careful and think carefully. What worked in 1975 does not automatically work in 2026. Not because women are foolish, not because people are lazy, because the math has changed. And if the math has changed, then sometimes the strategy has to change too. It doesn't mean we abandon frugality or quit trying. It means we apply wisdom to the season we are actually living in, not the one we romanticize. And that should lead us to mercy, not judgment. That is what I want to lean into talking about next. You know, I mentioned I used to judge women that didn't live on one income like I was doing. Remember, I spoke about how the Lord humbled me. So here's where I'm at right now. We've always had old beaters. Well, last year, after my last city trip, where I had doctor's appointments that could not be changed, and I needed to do a grocery trip on a 110-degree day in the city in a vehicle without air conditioning, I got heat poisoning. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. As a perimenopausal woman experiencing hot flashes, it presents a very difficult situation. In order for me to not have to go through that again, I have to work, all there is to it. It's not a luxury. It's not a luxury to need a vehicle that has air conditioning for health reasons, so that you're not vomiting. I know that there are maybe some young women out there driving around without air conditioning right now and doing fine. And in your 20s and 30s, it's possible. But things change as you get older. And here's where I'm going to be really honest with you. Life doesn't stay the same. Kids grow up and they end up needing things you can't have anticipated when they're young. Braces. And before anyone comments that kids don't need braces, sometimes they do. Actually, it is medically necessary. It's not a cosmetic thing. And insurance usually doesn't cover braces. In our case, we now have teenagers too, who, in order to get their first job, they need a car first. And in order to get the car, they need some help. So that's not spoiling the kids, that's helping them launch into adulthood. And also in our situation, we have a homestead. And I've talked about this before, but every summer our water table gets so low that we have to choose between doing laundry and watering the garden. So we need a cistern. Again, water is not a luxury, it's survival. And this is why I have more compassion now. This is why I don't judge anymore, because inflation, it's real. Life getting more expensive, it's real. Appliances breaking and consistently needing replacement is real. Medical needs are real. Sadly, there are still a lot of people who just don't get that. They want to shame women for working or for not being able to survive on one income anymore. But like I said, the numbers don't lie. The economy has changed, the cost of living has changed, and we need to stop judging each other. We need to remember that Christ said, "Do not judge, lest you be judged." He also said, "Blessed are the merciful." And he also said, "By the measure you use, it will be measured back to you." That should sober all of us. Do we want God to slap onto us
the same ruler that we are using on other people without any mercy. So now I see young women online proudly saying they live on one income, and I smile because I've been there, but I'm 2 decades ahead of that season. The early years are not the full story. There come the teenage years, the medical years, the repair everything years, the aging years where you realize living on one income meant nothing in retirement, and things start to shift and change. Wisdom is knowing your season. So how do you know when one income is not cutting it anymore? Well, I would say it's when your husband is chronically exhausted, when needs start consistently going unmet, when debt starts to creep in, when health becomes compromised, when pride is the only thing keeping you from helping. When you look at your life and think, something has to give. Sometimes rolling up your sleeves is not a failure, it's maturity. For many years, we survived on one income, at times even thrived, and now we work together, and that is still biblical. It is still loving. It's still family. Living on one income can be so beautiful and wonderful and peaceful, but it can also be very stressful. Living on one income is not a righteousness badge, and working as a woman is not a failure badge. If you're doing your best to provide, to love your husband, to protect your children and care for them, and steward what God has given you, you are not failing. Roll up your sleeves when you need to, rest when you can, and extend mercy to other women doing the same. We're all just trying to be faithful with what we've been given. If this has encouraged you, share it with another woman who might need to hear it, and I'll see you in the next video.
By the way, be sure to check out my playlist. I have 2 playlists all about low income, elegant, frugal living. They will be in the description box and probably the comments below.